So do you have any questions? I can do the presentation.
Yeah, I
I'm
can
sure
agree
you-
100%. I should approach it. Yeah.
So there is a legally under the Recreation Playgrounds Act of 1917 that what it allows is that municipalities, school districts, or combinations of them, so you can have multiple townships go together and multiple school districts go together. They can create recreation departments. So you see it around the state. You'll see recreation. In our here in Dexter, we don't have one. So we run community ed runs on a fee based, but kids are really fee based. Run any kind of athletics, recreation. So around the area, Saline has the CARES Millage. Lincoln has a rec village. Woodmore Lake has a rec village. They're all over the state. Some are rec villages for school districts, some are municipalities. So then you get some really unique ones. Like East Grand Rapids is the school district and the city of East Grand Rapids. So they have it together because they share a boundary. So for us, we have 84 square miles. I don't know if you've heard of district boundaries in Colorado. And cut through a bunch of townships. It's really just, it's like this V shaped. We go up through the middle of the chain of lakes on an angle, so half the lake is not us, half the lake is us. And what we can do is we can offer a recreation. We can do a recreation village around the houses instead of the city of Dexter, which is 2 square miles. They could offer one, but only for residents in the city of Dexter. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Right here. So, I'm Chris, by the way.
I'm Mary.
Nice to meet you. I don't know what one slide. You okay if I review it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty remote.
Oh, are you?
Paying attention since April and whenever you've done surveys and it's been coverage. Websites.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the reason we're asking the board to put the rec village on the ballot was there was community interest. We've had for a significant amount of time. The Dexter Senior Center has been asking how we can help support the Dexter Senior Center. So as a K-12 school district, we can't just fund the seniors. But we're supposed to spend our time and money, and our whole existence is on educating K-12 kids. We do run through community ed fee-based. In the 90s, we set up with seniors to be able to let them rent for a dollar. And then they pay utilities. When we sold Copeland, we built it into the encore lease that they had allowed to stay for a dollar for 5 years. So that we didn't have time to figure out. Seniors, they were working at one time, they were like Millage and was talking to that, senior funding, etc. So we're now trying to help them have, we can get them space. We can't build them space out of school funds, but we can help them get space. They don't need renovations for anything to do. But their issue is they don't have money. So the city gives them a hand of $2,000, a couple of townships, $1,000. They have about $13,000 that we give to municipalities to run every year. The rest they fundraise or it's from Meals on Wheels. Or grants. So they've asked, we've had, as a school district, we did some surveys over the years. There's a community fund and focus groups that came up with interest from the community in some form of community center. Look, they look at Celine has through the CARES village, they have Celine Community Center. So there's interest from the community having some form of community center. Our parents have been pretty clear that they are paying for their kids to go on to the place for space for athletics and other activities. And community members show up in high school every year wanting to walk the track in the winter during the school day when we're running classes. Really, there's interest in having more access. And we live in Michigan, so there's a lot of our spaces that we have can't use for a big chunk of the year. So when that's taking all those factors into account, is why we're putting it on the agenda or on the ballot. All the funds are fully generated about 1.4 million, and any oversight of the funds would be from, it's ultimately the school board entity, but they are appointing or setting up a committee of community members that would do all of the, good morning. They would do all of the planning and the oversight that they forward. They do all the work. How are you today?
Good morning, Chris.
Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, see ya.
Currently, this is how the senior center is funded. It's really grants and donations for the most part. They have about 20% of the funding comes from the agencies. Community ed is 100% funded on fees, so we only offer what we know we can fill. This summer and last summer, we offered those camps. I don't know if any of your kids did free camps.
Oh, they are this year, yeah.
So we did these camps. We had 1,600 campers so far this summer in all of these different camps that we took out of general fund, which are funds that were the way schools are funded. We get bond funding if we pass a bond to do construction. So maintain, not even maintenance of facilities, it's replacement and updates to facilities. So that's where you see the parking lot work. We can't just go and seal with bond funds. You have to replace. So it's truly construction dollars that can't be spent on salaries for employees. The rest of our fund comes from our per pupil. So the legislature picks a number every year. So this year they're getting a record increase, which is great. So we're at, I think, 4 numbers for one time. So they gave us we get per pupil on our account in October and February. This is for kindergarten through 12th grade. Then we have some special education fund. So that's how we fund to run those summer camps. These last 2 years, we just took it right out of our operational dollars. So that means we're taking out dollars that we're actually giving us program. We can do it here and there, but every year is really, it's going to pull from something. So community ed is all fee-based. It doesn't limit what we can offer. So we have men's basketball leagues that we don't really do anything other than gym. And they get whatever time we have. And we have spaces everywhere. We don't have any organized for adults. You go by the Mill Creek tennis courts, there's pickleball running, not just for people to show up and play. But there's no reason we couldn't have pickleball leagues, softball leagues, tennis leagues. We just need someone to run it. But it's hard to charge someone, hard to charge enough to get people to want to do it. You really got to be in. So, and then our pool CPA, which is the Center for Performing Arts at the high school, all of our fields and our playgrounds, we just take out of operational dollars to maintain. So as a good example, we have 4 softball-sized fields across the street. Little League pretty much uses those fields. We maintain them. We use it for our softball season, but we only have a JV and a varsity softball team. And we had an 8th grade team. We have 2 fields behind it. We had a middle school team. We have 2 fields there. We don't, for our school operations, we don't need them. But we have provided space for the community over the years, and we do that out of our general operations because that's how we're a community school district. Our rec village, we get funding to actually really maintain them and be able to access. What a rec village could do is we could put lights on a tennis court so that in the fall we can continue working with lights. As a school district, we have no reason to light up the tennis courts. Our matches are done with 5 o'clock. But community members would like to use them, they just can't when it gets dark. So we could do things like that to expand access.
So does community ed and like recreation fall under the same umbrella then, like the sort of rec programs?
Yeah, community ed is, we do, with community ed, we run preschool, we run aftercare, and we run recreation programs for kids and adults. And we do mindfulness classes. We have also their health right now. So we have a
Dog
basket.
training.
There's dog training. We try to base it on interest, aquatics, we base it on interest that we can try to build. And get enough in terms of fees to be able to pay for whoever had run or teach it. We do subsidize on an annual basis, we did pretty significantly to make it function. This year they were even. Awesome. What happens over the years though is like the pool, it's a great example. We have the Wiley pools. We have it open for open swim. Contingent on we can hire lifeguards. We somehow have to pay for lifeguards, we charge like $1 a person to swim, which doesn't really cover the lifeguards. It's really hard to hire a lifeguard or anybody for 2 hours. But if we had, and especially when we have no revenue to pay for it, we had a record, we could actually hire someone to run aquatics, swim instruction, things like that, who would also be in charge of lifeguards. That all has to be paid for some. So the funds, the way it's set up, is 25% would go to senior activities, and would help somewhere on our campus or in our buildings give senior space. 25% for construction and operations of a future Dexter Community Center that would be open to the community during the day and evening, so it's not taken up by the school during the day. So that community members can actually, when, like I said earlier, we do have community members want to walk on the track at high school. We have classes going on there. So what it would do is open up the opportunity to have some kind of space that had indoor walking or running area, would have some kind of hard court surface for football, tennis, etc. And then we've had parents that really look for some kind of turf type surface, indoor grass type surface. Because right now they're driving to Legacy and paying thousands of dollars, they're driving down to Wild World Sports, Wide World Sports, and paying thousands of dollars. They're like, we had access somewhere here. Look, Brighton just built one, Lincoln just built one. They're having indoor spaces. We have great spaces, but you can't use them 5 months a year. And then the last part would be youth and adult recreation activities, so fine arts, art, music, theater, youth and adult sports, enrichment, robotics, indoor and outdoor activities that anyone's interested, any age is on their resident.
While we're on this breakdown of, I have questions about, is there a schedule that's made out, like a schedule of the number of the money that's going to each entity? Like you say 25% is going to senior center. Is that just equate to about $350,000 a year?
Yeah, senior center actually set in comparison with Chelsea Center and Saline Center, etc. They need about 250. We're looking at about 300, so we just wanted to get it rounded well to explain. What'll happen is the board, when they did a first reading of a policy that established multi-generational activity village committee that would have community members. Would be, first, they would take applications and then they would represent different groups. And that committee will build the short-term and long-term plans and have to present the annual budgets. So it would really be controlled by community members. The board is the fiscal, so they have to find oversight, but it will so that the community members can really dictate. The first piece is that we need to give steady funding for all ages. So that's where the senior piece comes in. That is really an efficient way, a really effective way to reach seniors. To set aside some money there, and then the rest of the funds would be, there's financially, in order to fund a community center, you need to operate. You need operational funds, so they're taking on 25% of there. So that to manage and operate, and 50% would be where a lot of the leeway is. The way the Millage language is a legal language. Anytime you put a ballot language up, it is legal language. It's right on. You're sitting on the case law says. What'll happen is there's going to be a group that has to do the details of the budget, and then all the meetings, it's all public. So on it, have to work in the interest of the community. Because what the challenge is it's a concept of creating a recreation park. Details are going to evolve over 20 years because the world changes, interest changes. Like 4 years ago, I remember building 4 or 5 years ago, we built Beacon. And I didn't know pickleball was as big as pickleball is. We joked about the pickleball guys coming in there all the time, wanting to talk to us about pickleball. And we lined one court with 4 pickleball courts, and they're full all the time. We could have probably built an entire pickleball center. But when the bond, we plan, I don't know what sport's going to be big, or I think it's going to be big 10 years from now. That's that job. That committee is to be responsible for interest. Be balancing up it sways, so all money goes to one place. It has to serve all sides. Little kids up to.
And for these initial big capital expenses, like to build something comparable, I don't know if you're talking about comparable to legacy, but something like, like a field or a multi-field complex, like that could happen in year 1 or year 2.
It would take a long time. What we could do though, because it's a steady funding stream, it's approved, it would be 20 years of guaranteed dollars. So we would have the option to sell bonds out of those funds to get the money from, and then figure out what schedule we can pay it down with, pay it with. So, but it's got to fit within that. We still have to have operational hours. So to operate a facility like that, it's $200,000 to $300,000 a year to operate something. Minimum. So we have, what we would want to do as a school district is take out providing K-12 education to operate a community center. But with a rec village, do that, and we could use bond funds. We could use bond funds. We could sell bonds from the rec village funds to get the money up for the construction.
Yeah.
That's all.
What about the youth and adult rec activities? This would provide funding for those. Would that impact the fees that people pay to participate in any way?
Yes. Yeah. So right now we are fully funded in community ed. So we would probably a lot of times we get T-shirts and things. We probably charge something. We can't just do pay stuff. So we probably charge a small amount. T-shirt, whatever it is, or $10. It'd be a minimal fee. What we find, the other thing we're looking at doing is we can't pay for the middle school. Rec village cannot pay for those operations. It has to pay for that happen in our K-12, $1,098. So we can't pay for participation fees for middle and high school sports. But what we can do is eliminate those fees and pay for something like we can fund the pool. We spent $250,000 maintaining the pool that we use for our swim teams, but we also DCAC uses it. They're in there with our swim. We have scuba divers go in. We have birthday parties. We have open swim. I mean, it's used all the time. We could, and then we could actually pay for someone to maintain fields in that position and eliminate the pay restriction. So there's flexibility to open access. There's also, we would be able to manage our theater. Right now, we have Dexter Community Band, Dexter Community Orchestra, the Dexter Community Choirs all use the theater. They also use our buildings. So band and orchestra are in once a week in our band or orchestra rooms. And we just kind of open the door and hope it works. But we have to maintain the spaces and have someone that can manage these programs. One of the things that happens is we're adding it on to the jobs that we want to maintain. We're supposed to run schools. And that's what Mr. McCullough is paid to do this, what I'm paid to do is run schools. And run K-12 education, but we are a community school district, so we want to open up access. And if we had someone that actually was in charge of theater and the arts program, we could move some of the biggest things that come up with access is just, there's nobody that's really in charge of that schedule. To say, okay, can you move to here, an hour back here, so that we're good at this time. This would allow, and you look at Celine's a good model, Celine pays for their theater manager out of their rec budget, which opens up the theater space. Right now, we hire a part-time person, so what we generally do is hire someone for 15 hours a week. Just kind of maintain some things, but it's a beautiful facility. We have great facilities. This would allow us to open up. And coordinate, because one thing that happens is, you look like right now, there's nobody across the street in these fields. It won't be till nighttime. If we set up a program that was accessible and paid for, the staff was paid for, parents would be happy to drop their kids on. Said, put them on. If you look, go into the high school right now, Lakewood's home, we pay a strength and conditioning coach who runs 5 hours of strength and conditioning every day. There's kids everywhere. We do that, we can expand those kind of opportunities where it was some daytime camps too. Just, we're doing it right now with some athletics and arts, $100 free camps. We can actually do that next week.
So when it refers to like some of these things like fine arts and youth and adult sports, that's not referring to like high school sports, or like high school theater.
No, it's community band, community orchestra. Like the community choirs this summer, their show has a lot of our kids in it. In their summer show, when they're on our stage. And we could actually give them better access and help coordinate it more than you get this 1 week to be on the stage.
How much cooperation do you anticipate, like with Parks and Rec, with the city? Is there any kind of?
We don't really, we own all the property. Like Parks and Rec in the city, they don't have any parks that are other than a playground. We could work with them, but we own all the facilities. We have all the fields, we have all the indoor space. Down the road, I think we could work with them. They don't do, I mean, they have some nice parks, but we could. I don't know what they do. It's small and they only over city residents. This would be the entire walls of Dexter community schools. Significant. I think there's about 35 people. But and we have about 35. Just so it opens up to without the city residents. It was some of it. With the Parks and Rec, they have parks. As far as fields and space, we have. Talked about seniors. Now language is the legal language. Bills, so on taxable value, we want to know. So it's most house, so the house is worth $300,000 taxable values. So $850 annually or 41 cents a day. If someone purchased a house in the last few years, it's probably 400,000 or 600,000 range. So, but taxable value goes up with purchase. So it goes up in general, but it really, the only time to really reset it's on the purchase. This is, I like this show where our residents vote really describes where our district is. So we have Webster Township, we have the city of Dexter, Scioto Township, part of Scioto is our district, Dexter Township, only part of Dexter Township is our district. Lima Township, part of Lima is our district. Amberg, they actually voted to pick the buildings, pick these schools building. Lodi, Northfield votes in the Whitmore Lake school buildings, and then Freedom Township. So it just shows where our boundaries really, they carve all of it.
So, is this something that will be on the ballot for those townships?
Yes,
So they would be able to.
only ones that are within our school district. So one of the townships, I can't remember if it's Lodi or Freedom, has a handful of properties. Yeah, it's only a handful of properties that are in our district, but overall, it's the full 84 square miles. Anybody that lives next to it. And absentee. This is all on the website. Then I shared this with parents yesterday, summer camps and participation fees. And I think that's it. Open any questions.
Is the senior center board in full support of this?
Yeah, we've met with them. We've met with them. Ongoing before the pandemic, they were doing a lot of the research. They actually got a grant from Banner Foundation, and they did surveys and focus groups. One of the big pieces, two of their findings were community center, senior center fund. So they've been talking. We've been talking with them. That was really pushing now, though, because there is a timeline. They have to let it go. Pandemic, we thought nobody anticipated was going to happen the last couple of years. We set up the agreement with Encore, but within the next 5 years, the seniors will have some idea, the senior center will have some idea what we want to do with space, will help with space. And then I'm going to fast. They've been really involved and engaged. They're excited because they've been doing bake sales to fund their program. They have a steady revenue stream that matches what happens in other communities. Like Chelsea's has, they spent 300,000 ish on senior activities, and our senior center receives 13,000. And the rest, their full budget's in the 70 to 80,000 range on an annual basis. That's the fund staff, that's the pay for utilities, that's the pay for meals. That doesn't pay for anything.
Because there's cities around the city.
And this is the unique place that the school district's in, is we're really the only entity around that can do something. You can do a county-wide senior millage. If you want to help just seniors, a school district can't sponsor a county-wide or a district-wide senior millage. We can do a recreation millage, but it has to serve all residents, and seniors are a big portion. So this is one avenue that we can actually support.
Have you gotten feedback about the maximum one mil levy decision to over 1 mil, and people who have said, asked why you're not going for less, or like, why it's important to go for this?
On the 1 mil, if you're gonna, as a school district, if the village passes, we can offer more to the community than what we currently do. If it doesn't pass, our core mission, we can still teach. We can do what we were created to do. We have to have enough revenue generated from the village to make it meaningful. So we looked at, in order to fund the activities that needed to be funded, it would have been like something. So it was just shy of a mil, and we can take into account the overrides and the limitations that happen over the years, over a 20-year span. The 1 mil guarantees funding enough to do these things.
You said that about 0.8 in that range.
It was high.
Each of those.
It was in that like 0.87 range, 0.88, 0.89. It was almost a mil.
Curious about a lot of people are kind of suspicious because and something as important as raising taxes is allowed. A lot of people maybe are not paying attention. I think according to what I found from Washington Post's website, So some people are wondering, why not have more of the community involved in making the decision? Because, it's going to be a small number of people either way.
There's a couple of reasons for the timing. First is the way the tax collections happen. So if it's approved in August, we start collecting in December, start putting programming into motion. If election is in November, you cannot collect until a year later. So that people vote, they wonder where their money went. But it's the timing of the way tax collections happen. The second piece is we know even here in a primary August election, there will be a significant number of voters, more than there are on off years. So in the primaries, they're anticipating a pretty good turnout. We specifically get to elections, generally the seniors really have, they're on fixed incomes. They generally are voters. They vote in every election. And what happens in August, they're the most tuned in. They really are informed voters. Our families, we find that our numbers between August and November, other than a handful of years, are not that far off. We get pretty good participation in August as a community. In November, I remember November a couple years ago, it wasn't. You said 30, I didn't guess in the numbers, but it said 35%. I think we were only about 50% in November, so it wasn't. It was still higher than most places. Get participation, good turnout. It really comes down to the funding, so that voters can see something get in action. And we know that our voters generally show up, especially in primaries.
Oh, yeah, I've heard a few comments like, it's one through the year, and we're going to get whatever the regular school vote.
The November ballot, the other problem with having, remember voting in November, it's like a 3-page ballot. So what happens is you get things late in the ballot, people aren't casting for. So I know myself, every time I have to go in, and I have my master's is from Wayne State. And you would think I would learn, but you have to vote on the Wayne State Regents. If I went to Wayne State, I probably should inform myself better before I go into to go vote on who's running, but every year I'm like, so we don't want to have something here where people aren't informed people, so we're trying to do it in time. Issues to try to make, and they're not already too enough the period of radio and TV ads.
Is the November ballot written yet? Is there another anticipated increase from Dexter schools on the November ballot?
Nothing. Oh, we have 4 seats.
Okay.
Also very important.
Very important.
A lot of people are a little nervous because might be looking at an upcoming recession. And I'm sure we're going to be voting on something for fire station, so I think there's a lot of concern.
And what we know is we've been asked by community members to do this on behalf of the community, so that's, we're asking the community if you want. Is this something you want? If you want it, the community wants it, we're happy to make it happen. If the community in August decides they don't want it, then we seniors can figure out how to help them as a community partner. And teach kids. It's the strangest feeling. Look at, like we did the last bond. We were teaching on the stage in this building. We were completely out of space. We're like, we need to build a school. They don't have room. That's a different feeling. That you're going, community wants some kind of recreation activities and space and programming. here's a mechanism to do it. We're the only entity that can. It's just a really unique proposal and what the potential for a community. It's a concept of how to create a multi-generational recreation park that isn't just about sports for you. It's all ages. Really is. It's not a new idea. It's new to Dexter, but it does change in a positive way what's possible. I know it's every place I've lived other than Dexter had a recreation.
As Washington County residents, we're already Washington County person. We're paying for everything.
Nice parks. Very nice parks.
And, but we're already paying into that. And then the Dexter Wellness facility, again. Meanwhile, they're a nonprofit, so they're not. So basically, subsidizing them. There's doesn't seem to be lack of recreational for Southeast Michigan. So I do understand, yeah, people wanting the indoor facility. Live in the state anymore. I have really good now.
Really, and what we're seeing is in the northern states, because those types of facilities have become more rural. We're seeing that a lot in some of the Wisconsin, a lot are in Michigan. And the Catholics that are actually from school districts are not in school. It's a mix of the school. So the community has the ability to find it out. Track over there in the evening. They have the ability to sign up for courts to use to play tennis or pickleball or even volleyball or basketball. And then grab a turf space that are in many of them. The community can use it, and then they're signed up in shifts, kind of like a hockey. You have your ice time. So you have community groups that do it. You have teams that do it. You have just parents who want to take a bunch of kids up. This is not in January. So that's what we're seeing happen. And it happens in the south too, so hot. But it's space has become more affordable. That's you think about January and everybody that's kind of consider love to go out for a walk, but it's 2 degrees.
Just mentioned the community center and the timing of when community center would be built. How long it would take to get. I just wonder if you had a plan or kind of an idea of when that would be built, or if that would be a decision that would be made by, what you kind of mentioned, kind of oversight.
Oversight committee would have to start work with community members what we want in it. And we have to write the scope. Funding wise, we could if the Millage is approved in August, taxes are starting to collect in December, we could sell bonds after that to get the funding, but you have to have a plan of what you're going to do. So we built Beacon in a year. This would take longer because we already had the plans for Beacon. We were working on it. We took the cornerstone plans and adopted before you mentioned. I'm thinking within a 2-year, within 2 years, you'd actually have. It's not a facility that we wouldn't pick a place we're going to do a lot of earthwork. We own 360 acres, so we wouldn't pick somewhere where we have to move a lot of ground. But we're at parking access.
So that would be a school.
And we wouldn't want to purchase any property. We own 360 acres. On your property, right? And it would be, you're not picturing like a school has a giant footprint. And footprints the size of. There's plenty of spaces. It would have to be just as a reference. That's all. So thankfully you came. I was sitting here, I'm like,
No, I didn't know that'd be so intimate. I actually got here a little bit before 9. I was down the halls and there was like crickets. So I was back home, looked it up again, and sure that it was still in the right place. Yeah.
Sorry, all of a sudden I said, oh, there's a bag. Okay.
yeah, and I had it set up with chairs if it wasn't. If there were a lot of people here, then I hit the table. I got asked 3 times by other people, what's up, set up? Let's go with this. A lot of people. That's what.
Maybe you'll have a bigger turnout to see.
Yeah, it's always hard to tell. There's times like that, even with the bond forums or other committee forums, you get 50 to 100 people. There's times you get, it just depends. Sometimes the weather, just depends. If it's really hot later, some people want to go. Some won't. If it storms, nobody wants to go. You never know. Worse is the winter. It snows at all of those. Every time.
What's your attendance been for this?
The first few were pretty good. It's dwindled since then. I think the virtual one is like 25 or 30. I've had a lot of questions, and I know both of us live here. We live here. We've been asked more anecdotally everywhere. Been asked a lot. So not just the formal settings. A lot of questions, a lot of just clarifications or interest. And a lot of people said, no, I used to live in Point. We had a recreation park. This makes sense to me. Which was it, that's been interesting. It's amazing what you hear has happened wherever anybody.
Another thing I thought of earlier, I forgot now. So the Celine, is that one administered, taken care of by the school district? Okay. And is that typically the situation for these types of?
It can be a combination of municipalities who set up a separate board that works through municipality boards. Celine is the CARES Millage that runs through the school district. They have a setup, they have committees similar to what our board's creating that does the real legwork and is represented by the committee. I can pull up with the committee.
So ours would look very comparable to what Celine is. Just the setup.
Just the mix too of seniors, people from the different activities in the community. So you have this, it's not like we're going to have the soccer parents and seniors, but no, you're going to have a breadth of a lot of different people made up to really look at it.
Does Celine's have do they support the seniors as well?
They want to.
So that's a good model. It's close by. We can reference it pretty quickly.
They've had it in place for a long time.
Yeah.
So the committee would be comprised of the superintendent, whoever superintendent is at the time, would be a non-voting member. The CFO is money involved. Community ed director, because a lot of it will run through community ed. We have the structure. There'd be a board of ed representative appointed by the board, 1 to 2 district middle or high school students. So it's really be important to get some student perspective. 2 senior center reps. Senior center board would nominate 2 people. BCS board would have to approve it. No different than Parks and Recreation. A representative from the Dexter Community Fund, which Dexter Community Fund is an interesting group. They are their boundaries for what they can support are the community, the school district boundaries. It's the same boundaries. They have generated, they're trying to raise money and building an endowment fund, community recreation, and support activities. They, in an annual basis, it's roughly. Are you doing it?
Which one?
Dexter Community Fund?
No.
Okay. It was at 1 years ago. It's they support activities, not 1.4 billion. So
they got a decent amount of money.
yeah, they're big. And then somewhere between 4 and 8. And the reason for 4 and 8 is because, you know, people want to, we didn't want to give some leeway. Someone of district residents who represent fine arts, adult recreation, enrichment, youth recreation, enrichment, and general interest. What'll happen is the district will open up and advertise there's vacancies. And for at least 7 days, share those vacancies and then collect applications for at least for 7 to 14 days. So it'd be like this 21-day window. So think about it, and you can apply the process from there. There'd be seats that natural rotation. They're all open meetings act, so every meeting is public. It's accessible to the public because it's a public fund.
This is the community that you were talking about earlier. Okay, so the community committee and this committee is one.
This is the same. Yeah, this is the construction.
I think it doesn't have the right to look at what other options, like it's linked to their peers village, they give like grants every year. They had in the past, COVID kind of jacked them up, but they would offer like grants of like $5,000 to $10,000. The community member came in and said, I want to start this thing. They would grant help them start some recreation. Options that they can look at, like there's unique options out there that something isn't started already. Oh, I want to start. They can help, you know, community members.
So we've seen that over the years through community ed, and I mean, think of what's happened with youth activities, like robotics. We have a bunch of parents that want to start robotics. So we help them set up robotics for kids. It operates the youth ones down the hall, the high school one, back to Wiley, they have this whole workshop area. We had lacrosse. Lacrosse is actually really interesting. There were a bunch of parents wanted to start some youth lacrosse. Now there's a ton of kids playing lacrosse. They're everywhere. It's everywhere. You go out. I bet you if you go out tonight out on right behind Banks here, you'll see kids playing lacrosse. We had pickleball. All we needed to do for Beacon to build that was we had to tear out the old tennis courts and build new ones. And we were continually asked by community members, can you put pickleball courts in? Here's the dimensions. Here's what they would look like. It would be great to have a funding like we had to work with them. They're going, we need somewhere to store our stuff. We put a little Rubbermaid shed in. Go ahead, no problem. And what do we do for nets? Well, we got to be able to play tennis there, so we can't put permanent nets. So what if we do these removable nets? We keep that shed, but we can set up through these funds to actually not have just scrounge to do it. Based on throwing it.
Right. If we looked at some system of lights, I think that would help, right? You know, when you have their own softball leagues, kickball leagues, or other places we don't have, or lighting the courts. I think those would be just another way to provide access to a lot of those. So a lot of the parks, right? Parks are awesome. So they at night, you know, you have the lights light up so we can help support people with that.
What we know is in the fall, we experience it with fall sports. So fall soccer is a great example. It's light, it's light, it's light. Get to the end of the season, we're having to wrap games up by 6 o'clock. There's no reason we couldn't throw some solar power lights that get you a few more hours every night on some games that people could use. It's most of our facilities are not close to houses, so just should be. But we also don't want to pay for a massive electric bill for lighting up facilities that we don't need for the school operations.
You mentioned this past year you were even on fees. Can you explain what that is, what that number is, and if that's like a common occurrence to be able to generate a number?
Yeah, it's so in community ed, we need to collect enough in fees to do programming that we can pay for our overhead costs, administrative costs. We have like 2 point something staff members over there, 1.3 I think. FTE of staff that have to do all the coordination of who's going to be in this space, and this space, and this space, and how's this program going on. They have to hire the lifeguards, birthday party, you gotta hire the lifeguard, swim, there's some behind the scenes things they have to make programs. They were able in the last couple of years, COVID years, they're all shut down. We've been able to get to about the break-even point, which is really got some really good. But it does limit what we can offer. sign up, we can't offer it. We could, if we had funding and maybe it grows, we could actually invest in some options, but it's fee-based.
So do you know approximately like how much that was in terms of?
Well, then annually, it's gets crowded up with run aftercare programming in there and preschool, but I would say 300,000 to 400,000. And then you add in aftercare and preschool. Because it's we run future preschool.
And that's general fund budget then that funds like those
No,
positions?
it's a community services fund. It's a separate fund.
For both the aftercare and the.
Yeah, it's all in the community services.
Would this college affect to play sports?
It would, Millage wouldn't directly pay for it, but what we would do is the boards would pay for it, they would pay for participate fees. And we would just pay for things that support programming that a lot that we're paying for now, most of it. That's not going on.
Is that really an issue in the school district? I would think it'd be a pretty small percentage of students who would probably qualify for waivers.
We scholarship kids.
Scholarships.
The issue is some schools charge, some schools don't. Once you start charging, it's hard to cover. We spend about $1 million a year on high school athletics, and we bring in about 250,000 or so in participation fees and gate fees from admissions. So we take about 700,000 out of teaching kids, 12, with pay for athletics. And that's with just paying coaches, field maintenance, and officials and transportation. So generally, the parents end up uniforms with the booster club or creative things for uniforms when they need. When they really need them. But a lot of times, a year or 2 years. It does get very costly for sports anymore.
I was just thinking, for my family, I'm gonna have 2 high school kids, and I have one sport and one's gonna be 2 sports. So for my family to play participants in 750 next year. If Millage passes, my taxable responsibility will be around 250 year range. So I'm right there saving $500 paid place on. So
And the other thing that happens is nowadays for sports, you think even sports that you think are fairly inexpensive, but shoe cost, uniform cost, equipment cost,
It's $37.50 for a bar.
that's pretty inexpensive. Those costs are.
I know, so, no, here's what I'm saying, it's this much material. Yeah.
it's true. It's very expensive.
But you haven't bought the little, the warm up suit or whatever you
No,
call it.
and the school does provide, the team does provide the funds, the.
But we have, I mean, you look at it anymore, baseball's a great example. Used to think all you needed was a glove. Cleats are $100, bats are $350. And then you gotta buy everything else. I mean, it adds up. You look at soccer. Shin guards and cleats are not cheap. And then they all want the bag and other stuff.
Miles up here,
Oh,
you're buying
Right,
another $100.
right, every year.
Yeah.
You're buying all every year, it's
Yeah.
every
season.
75, every, how many miles, every 100 miles. You're buying shoes.
Which 100 miles doesn't take long to cross.
It's not across
Not
that
at all.
You think that's like the cheapest sport to be involved?
Nothing's
not.
cheap.
No.
And I was also thinking, you know, you mentioned about the wellness center or any private athletic club. Again, with my taxable value and my taxable responsibility for a village would be much less than joining a private athletic club. And then I have my community center right here that'd be available to me and my family at any time for any winter or seasons.
How would it impact pay to play? I just want to be clear on that.
It's really hard to describe. We would eliminate data point. And then we would probably pay for something like utilities, something like that. That's about the same amount. And but we need more access to the pool. your staff. Cool, instead of trying to charge a dollar a night per swim. Actually, just pay an aquatics director, swim lessons. That's how.
Up to more during the day, how we have it set up, there's someone there during the day, you have more access to the pool. During the day, that someone can organize, staff and make it all ready to go. It's separate enough from why like access during the day.
All these year-to-year will be approved, all these year-to-year decisions, so it'll be fluid, kind of,
Yeah.
so when pickleball goes out of style, we'll be moving into whatever. So, so the point is like for each one of these programs, the senior center, all of these, amounts approved to go towards that program will be different every year.
A little bit, we would, so in good conscience and responsibility, whatever you say you're going to pay for, is going to approve it, you can make sure you deliver. So, senior funding, I would not anticipate senior funding being cut less than what they asked for. They need about 300,000 or 250, we said about 300. They need about 300,000, and then that would have to go up, this cost will go up. That's part of the reason for this committee. And then as far as the community center, it would have to be paid for the operations needs to be covered. But the other activities, which is the bulk of the funds, would have some, this committee would have to make short-term and long-term plans based on the community interest of how to spend those funds. And then what happens is no different than any other thing we pay for. There is an elected group that you can, as a citizen, either run to be part of that board, or come talk to the board, or house the board if they're not using the funds the way you want. And that's part of our system, and it really, this committee here would have direct responsibility to create short and long-term plans and budgets. Every time you do budgets, everybody wants their part, but it does put the priorities and we're trying to figure out these are the priorities. So here's your buckets of work. And anytime you actually start spending money on something, it's hard to do. If it was something that you decided with value. So this group's going to have to be.
Last
And
question,
your
I promise. So at the end of the year, if there happens to be some funds that have not been spent, unlikely, but if there is, where do they go? Is there,
Build a reserve.
they'll build a reserve fund.
There will be funds, like that first year, there will be funds that are, every year, you shouldn't spend. But there are times that, no different than your household budget, you have to save for something that you need to pay for. And just general maintenance. So if you know that something's gonna cost $50,000, you save to every year, knowing that in that year, you can spend $50,000. You'd want to build a fund balance for them, so that, or for this fund, so it could be long term. So, for example, lights out, courts, like you start saving a little money every year, put lights out on tennis courts. Then when that year comes, you can put lights on the tennis courts.
So those aren't swept over to some other general fund, some other, it's all capped within some other generation.
So we have all.
Yeah, well, that
Governmental accounting.
I think so.
So
I
it
just
is.
wanted to make sure it's.
Is there a location being considered for senior centers?
Short-term dates, unless we attach something. To make it part of the
I know Chelsea. Old high
school.
The old high school.
The old high school.
Yeah.
They have extra
Oh,
funds.
Actually,
We don't have any, this is our only extra, not really extra space, our only additional space. It's filling fast.
I went there. I was there. So the nice part about that old place was it's broken up into all those separate buildings. So it's great, 'cause they have the technical classes here and here, so they have things separate. It's a perfect spot for the Chelsea to have functionality. with that.
We would set them up for now, we can renovate some space at Bates or plan to build a community center, space they agree. And that could be used on. And one of the things we've had as a district, we grew. So we were just. Dexter Elementary School. Bates. And then they built, Milage, which became middle school. Creekside, which was a high school. And then in the 90s, built Cornerstone and built Creek. And then two built high school, and then we built Beacon and all that. And we sold Hope. We really had 6 offices. And that, 3, 4, with 4 offices. And we're maintaining that building. And the theater, the encore, it's a great community.
Yeah, that's been a wonderful.
It was really, when they came to us, we're like, that actually makes a lot of sense. We gotta figure out the seniors. So that you gotta give them 5 years to figure something out. Now we're in like year 3.5. Appreciate you coming.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks for doing your research and interest. Finding out more.
Good luck.
Thanks for doing it again tonight. Yeah.
Exactly.
If there's any other questions to think of on the Dexter website, if you go there, you can ask questions. Somebody will get back.